What's up, brothers? We still have a lot of discourse around the bans here, so I'm going to touch on that a little bit, give my honest thoughts. Man, you guys are seeing a window right into my dome, brother. You know, some people don't like that. They say, Nikki G, you got to keep those thoughts to yourself. You know, why can't a person be a violin? You know, a throne of skulls doesn't make any sense. Come on, man. Home Depot isn't the best place to try out your Speedo ideas. That kind of stuff. So listen, I always lose about 4 subscribers when I say anything on either side of the fence, you know. You say something one way, people get upset. You say it the other way, people are going to get upset. But listen, sometimes it's good to hear one side or the other. You know, some people listen to Sam Cedar, some people listen to Ben Shapiro, some people listen to both, you know. It's important to see what the other side is saying. All right, here we go. First off, I've heard people say that 7 mana value and up commanders are less viable now. And I think that's gobbledygook. I've never owned a Jeweled Lotus, I've never owned a Mana Crypt, and I've built plenty of commander decks with high mana value commanders, and guess what? They're fine. Some are actually better than fine. They're pretty good. There are plenty of other ways to get there. Those decks require a little more setup, and you're setting up your big commander. And we're going to explore some of those ways in this very video, brother. If you think you need a Jeweled Lotus and a Mana Crypt to build a commander deck, well, that's just another argument for the cards to be banned. They're too powerful if a deck can't be built without them. They're generic, they're super staples. Then we need to get rid of them to make room for more synergistic and specific pieces. The other thing I've heard is that some of these bans have wiped out a whole buttload of financial value. I mean, listen, the financial value of these cards has always been built on a castle made of sand, brother. If I can get metaphorical with you here for a second, there is no promise that Mana Crypt can't be reprinted at common in a standard set, or, you know, a secret lair or 2 secret lairs or whatever. And what can be reprinted will be reprinted. Don't build your financial portfolio on it. And what can be banned, my friends. And I'm sorry, dude, this sucks to say. I really don't want to be mean, and I'm accountable for my own words, you know. But the rules committee is not accountable for your finances. They're trying to balance a format. However misguided or wrong you think they are, you know, I don't necessarily like these bans either. But they're the ones in charge of the rules for the format. What they've built is what it is. It's a creative, social, casual format, and we've perverted it in different ways with the damn CEDH splinters and 1v1 and Star Commander and Splatmander over on the P-Hub, dude, but they want it to be what they want it to be. And while we're at it, listen, Sheldon Menery didn't have anything to do with these bans. You know, maybe he voiced something before he passed away, or maybe they just wanted to ban these cards, you know, it really doesn't matter, dude. But you can't blame Sheldon Menery or devote even a moment to what he would think about that. Because it doesn't matter. He can't be involved in the discussion because unfortunately he died, dude. Just give him the honors. Let the man rest in peace. So that's all I have to say about it. You know, I like to keep it lighthearted and fun. You know, I want my videos to warm you up, brother. And in that vein, let's dig out the banned cards and replace them with these wonderful mana accelerators. Now, we all know about the signets and the talismans and the Felwar stones and the mind stones, but let's get into some underrated gems. And if you enjoy this video, show me with your likes and your subscribes, brother. And if you don't like it, well, you know, hit the button anyways in appreciation of the dogs and the cats and the people who live there. Dockside, man, what a loss. It's a pretty phenomenal combo enabler. It's a crazy value piece. Artifacts and enchantments, come on, man. So now your deck has a big dockside shaped hole in it. Was Dockside the center of some combo? Well, I can't help you there. And I'm not going to pretend that there's some card that can stand in for that. But let's power down. Let's crank up the fun with the old treasure nabber. This fella's 2 and a red, Goblin Rogue. It's a 3/2. Whenever an opponent taps an artifact for mana, gain control of that artifact until the end of your next turn. The laws of givesies backsies right there. People hate the nabber, but listen, it's fairly innocuous. You know, you end up giving back the mana rock. It can be a big mana boost for you and snags a bunch of stuff in a turn cycle sometimes. Added bonus points if you have a way to sacrifice your stolen artifacts like a damn trading post, something like that. Or how about this guy, the Generator Servant, 1 and a red, creature elemental, it's a 2/1, has tap, sacrifice it, add colorless. If that mana is spent on a creature spell, it gains haste until end of turn. Infinite potential given finite form. You know, is this a damn Mana Crypt? No, dude, it's not. But it is some pretty sweet mana acceleration. You know, he's just a little electrical ribcage out there. He's making it happen, giving your commander haste. Now, conventional wisdom tells us that 3 mana rocks are terrible. They're the worst. You know, we need 0 mana rocks. We need fast mana and dockside extortionists out there. Well, settle down, man, because the Cursed Mirror is awesome. You know, it adds red. As it enters the battlefield, you may have it become a copy of any creature on the battlefield until end of turn, except it has haste. You know, this had a couple reprints, was a little pricey, it's down to 35 cents. You know, is this going to power out a 6-mana commander on turn 2? No, but it's also not boring as heck. Get out your fly swatter because the Ebony Fly is here. 2 generic mana for an artifact. It enters tapped, has tap, add colorless. 4, roll a d6. Until end of turn, you may have Ebony Fly become an XX insect artifact creature token for flying, where X is the result. Whenever this guy attacks, another target attacking creature gains flying until end of turn. I've used this card. It's a 2-mana rock, comes in tapped, you know, which is substandard. However, it's not a super staple, but it's an interesting little card that later in the game can get you over the top rope, brother, swanging in that big commander for lethal. And how about this, Culling the Weak? It's 1 black for an instant. As an additional cost to cast this spell, sacrifice a creature, you're adding 4 black mana. I always feel so sad for this little guy, you know, he's the weak. That's who they're culling out there. He's about to get cold, dude. This one is about $5 after a list printing. It's a very good card. Kind of a takeoff on Dark Ritual, which is a staple for a reason. Dark Ritual is another fantastic card. I mean, honestly, did they need to make a colorless free Jeweled Lotus version of this? I don't think so, man. Now, while we're out here culling things, how about the Culling Ritual? 2 black and a green for a sorcery. Destroy each non-land permanent with mana value 2 or less. Add black or green for each permanent destroyed this way. This is a token killer, a little mana rock killer, treasure killer, although they can sack those in response to this, but this is just a great card, man. Now, if you were running Mana Crypt and there's a big Mana Crypt shaped hole in your deck and you're in green, check out Whoah, Eyes of Gaia. 2 and a green, legendary creature, Elf Druid Scout. It's a 2/3. Has tap, add 2 mana in any combination of colors. Spend this mana only to cast creature spells or activate abilities of creature sources. Whenever you cast a creature spell with power 5 or greater, put a +1/+1 counter on Whoah, untap it. This is 3 mana, but it's incredible in the right decks. And Whoah is just a couple bucks, man. Now, in some circumstances, this is a little weaker. Some circumstances, it's a little better, but you got the Somberwald Sage out there. Tap, add 3 mana of any one color. Spend this mana only to cast creature spells. Listen, this thing dies to a stiff breeze, alright? A fast-moving leaf. It's a 0/1, unfortunately, but it's a pretty cool card. Hey, for all you monocolored dudes out there, those rainbowless sad fellas out there, you got the Scepter of Eternal Glory. 4 generic mana, legendary artifact, has tap, add 1 mana of any color, or tap, add 3 mana of any one color. Activate only if you control 3 or more lands with the same name out there. Look at that Scepter out there, man. This fella, old Skeletor here, he's holding it aloft with the pride of 1,000 Mormons, brother. Hey, how about some more 3 mana rocks that rip, dude? You got the Patchwork Banner out there. Choose a creature type. Creatures you control of the chosen type get +1/+1. Has tap, add 1 mana of any color. Brand new in Bloomburrow. This is great for a tribal deck. I want this in my demon deck. Although the art, you know, a little squirrel quilt out there may mismatch the theme of giant demons. But you also have 3 mana rocks like Patriarch Seal, Decanter of Endless Water. The list goes on from there. These are some pretty decent cards. And listen, dude, don't sleep on these enchantments that make your lands into turbo acceleration like Overgrowth. When enchanted land is tapped for mana, its controller adds an additional green. Simple 22-cent card that can pay off an enchantment theme. There are a bunch of these depending on your colors, and we of course have this social contract. You know, listen, my group spits all over that anyways. These animals will murk your lands like they squash a damn Monster Energy drink out there. They're degenerates. But if your group respects the social contract, these are overperformers. And you have these bigger mana rocks, the Relic of Sauron. Add 2 mana in any combination of blue, black, or red. All you gotta do is tap it, brother. Has 3 and tap, draw 2 cards, then discard a card. This card's incredible. You know, it's a little pricey at $7, but this is a more interesting mana rock that can feed your graveyard, you know? Now listen, if you're in a mono blue or mono black deck and your Mana Crypt is in the toilet somewhere, try out High Tide, or the black version, Bubbling Muck. Till end of turn, whenever a player taps a swamp for mana, that player adds an additional black. You know, this is symmetrical, but listen, this is an old school banger. The Golden Throne, 4 generic mana, legendary artifact, has arcane life support. If you would lose the game, instead exile the Golden Throne, your life total becomes 1, which is not bad. You know, if you're going to die to combat damage or something, this might buy you a turn. 1,000 souls die every day. Has tap, sacrifice a creature, add 3 mana in any combination of colors. Look, man, this is balanced. You know, it's a sacrifice outlet, sack a stupid token, get yourself 3 mana. Is it a Jeweled Lotus? No, brother, but that card is banned. But you know what is a Lotus? The old Lotus Bloom out there. It's an artifact. Has suspend 3 for 0 mana. Has tap, sacrifice it, add 3 mana of any one colors. This is only good if you can cheat it out, recur it, manipulate the time counters. But that's the fun of Commander. You know, finding the perfect card for your narrow deck. Not just running Mana Crypt and everything. And you know what, man? There's just some more interesting, more niche mana rocks. You have fantastic downgrades that even if they aren't Mana Crypt are really good. Like Thran Dynamo, 4 generic mana artifact, has tap at 3 colorless. This card is great in an equipment deck. Just slap this down, cast your next equipment. I always find this card overperforms, comes down untapped. It's got that classic art, looks like a German kitchen gadget of some stripe. You have Liquimetal Torque. This is one of my favorites, man. It's a 2 mana, tap add colorless, target non-land permanent, becomes an artifact in addition to its other types until end of turn. All you gotta do is tap it, brother. There are 2 instances where this comes in handy. 3 if you count the actual mana acceleration, but in an artifact deck, this makes a case for itself to make your non-artifact synergy pieces into artifacts for whatever that's worth. Or decks that have ways to blow up artifacts. This card rips. And of course you have cards like Worn Power Stone, tap add colorless, but it comes in tapped unfortunately. 13 cents for this fella. You know, sucks comes down tapped, but whatever. You have Palladium Myrrh out there. Look at this shiny fella. Looks like a transformer that turns into a razor scooter, but this guy makes his way into lots of decks. Then you have neat little dorks like this guy, restricted mana producers, the Omen Hawker, 1 blue mana, that's it for an Octopus Advisor. It's a 1/1. Has tap, add colorless, and 1 blue, spend this mana only to activate abilities. He's an octopus now, and that's kind of interesting. He's out there doing the Hawk 2 out there, man. There are of course the red rituals. Mana Geyser is the biggest one, it's a $3 common. Pyretic Ritual, $7. These are great mana acceleration and better with Magecraft. So listen, brother, all is not lost. There are lots of cards you can slot into your decks, and hopefully you saw something here you haven't seen before. Look, I have deck lists for a bunch of higher mana value commanders, and not one uses any of the banned cards to begin with. Sauron, Lord of the Rings, Bladewing, Deathless Tyrant, Agent Frigg Horrigan, Tali Primal Conqueror, Ovika, Enigma Goliath, the Ur-Dragon, for God's sakes. Listen, we can make fun, powerful commander decks without those cards. I hear everybody out there talking about how bummed they are, and I get it, man. I do get it. I own 2 copies of Tolarian Academy. I can't use that in anything. They're pretty useless to me, man. But you know, it is what it is. We have some things we don't like in life, you know, but we still have our attitudes, we still have our intellect, and we still have our other cards, and that's better Commander, brother. Nikki G, signing off.